Superintendent Flanagan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Russ. It's great to see you all. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. We're excited to have the opportunity to talk to you all about where we are with this exciting building project for Burlington High School and Burlington Technical Center, and to get your feedback on what you think we should be focusing on with this project. We are super excited about the opportunity in this building project, an opportunity to support deeper learning, equity, and engagement, and to really build a fantastic building for our community and for our students. I'm really excited for this possibility. I just also want everybody to know that through this process, we are committed to being open and transparent and receiving feedback and adapting to that feedback, and in continuing to listen to the priorities of the community throughout this process, carrying back from some original information and feedback sessions we did through previous projects and carrying into now. So we're excited about that. And also we are committed to fiscal responsibility throughout this project. We know this is a big lift for our district, for our city. And so we've set aside already $11.5 million through the American Rescue Plan funding, and some other funding sources that we have access to already. We're going to continue to do serious fundraising to bring other resources to this project. And so with that, I'm going to keep it short, keep it brief. Good to see you all. I'll pass it over to Principal Lauren McBride.
Thank you, Superintendent Flanagan. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who I may not have had the privilege of meeting, my name is Lauren McBride. I'm the principal over at BHS. I just want to echo Superintendent Flanagan's welcome that this is a really exciting time. It's exciting to be talking to you all for the first time about this, but know that there has already been work that's going on behind the scenes, where we have been engaging in different design retreats. There's a steering committee that features some of our students and faculty members, and really trying to dig in and get some feedback on what learning can look like, not only in the near future, but even extending beyond that. So we are incredibly excited to think differently as we look at this new project. There is a lot that we have learned, I think, over the course of the past couple years, and as we really engage with deeper learning as instructional strategies within our classrooms. So we're thinking about flexible classrooms, making sure that we, as we look at this design, that we are thinking about shared functional spaces that have access to high quality technology, but also allow us to be flexible in how we utilize and capitalize on instruction and learning spaces for students. We are, working. I think also the interesting piece about this redesign project is we kind of went through like a very mini redesign process last year. And there's been a lot of things that we've learned as we've entered into our current home at downtown BHS. And there are some things that we really want to capitalize on that we didn't anticipate. And then moving into this space has allowed us already to think differently and flexibly and creatively. And so I think we can take some of these lessons learned and apply them as we forge ahead. So I'm incredibly excited to see and to be a part of this process as we continue to roll ahead, and feel really hopeful for the innovative design that we're looking at and what we're going to be able to offer our community as we move forward over the coming years. So thank you. It's really exciting to be here. And with this, I'm going to turn it over to Director Gingle.
Thank you, Principal McBride. Good evening. I'm Jason Gingle, the director of the Burlington Tech Center. Nice to meet you all. And we're super excited to be on this team, engaging and planning for a new technical center in high school. We're really excited to bring the technical center back and to connect with the Burlington High School campus. This will allow us to increase collaboration and efficiencies with Burlington High School and BTC teachers. It will increase our sense of belonging to the Burlington School District and create efficiencies and pathways for students to develop college and career planning. We're looking forward to creating spaces that have the ability to grow technologically and meet the demands of our regional labor market, and we want to support our communities in that effort. BTC continues to plan and strive to have the most up-to-date technology and equipment. And we hope that this new building, it's designed in a way that as new programs develop in 5, 10, 15 years, those spaces could meet those demands of the labor market and your communities. So we're really excited about this opportunity to work with you all, and thank you for your time. We appreciate your feedback.
All right, so I guess I'll jump in now. My name is Joe Wythe. I am with the firm White & Burke Real Estate Advisors, and we are the project manager working on behalf of the district on this project. And our agenda tonight, we have about 60 minutes or so to cover a few things. First thing we're going to do is just do some quick introductions of the design team and also the district leaders who have been working extensively on this project. We'll then turn it over to our design team to do a presentation, talk about the project schedule, the design process, give an overview of the programming and visioning work that's been done to date, and then talk about next steps. We're then going to break everybody up into some small working groups, and we've got some questions that we're going to ask you, and it's just an opportunity for everyone to share your ideas and your thoughts and your recommendations on how you would like to see a new high school and tech center designed going forward. After those breakout groups, we're going to bring everybody back together, and we're going to talk about ways in which the design team is seeking community and stakeholder input in the process. And then we will end the meeting with a Q&A session to be led by Superintendent Flanagan. So let me jump right in here. I'm going to introduce our design team. So the architectural team working on this project actually consists of 3 firms. 2 of the firms are local here in Burlington, and the other is based in Massachusetts. The 2 local firms are Freeman French Freeman Architects. They're the lead architect on the project. And then the other is Colin Lindbergh Architects, also based here in Burlington. And then the other firm, which is based in Massachusetts, is Drummy Roseanne Anderson Architects, and they have extensive experience designing schools, including high schools and technical centers in the Northeast. So happy to have them on board. Civil engineer on the project is Civil Engineering Associates. And then the district leaders who have been working very closely with the design team include Nathan Lavery, the Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Marty Spalding, Director of Property Services, Lauren McBride, the BHS Principal, Jason Gingle, the BTC Director, and then also Bobby Riley, who's the Principal of On Top and Horizons. So we have most of those people here tonight attending the meeting, and I suspect some of them will be leading some of the small group breakouts. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the design team for their presentation.
Here on my screen. Are you all seeing the presentation?
We are, Russ. It's not in presentation mode, though.
I'm working on that piece. Just want to make sure that we are good to go here. And then who's sort of kicking us off from the design team and walking us through this thing?
Well, this is Carl Franceschi with DRA. I guess I can take it. We've been the most active participant, I guess, in this first phase of programming and visioning and conceptual design, but we're 1/3 of the team as Joe indicated. So there's the agenda that Joe just went over. I think we can move on, Russ. Thanks.
Great.
So the team has put together a schedule. It's sort of a live document being fine-tuned, but it is fairly detailed to get us to a November bond vote, where the first phase that we're working on right now is that band called pre-design and programming, where we develop a concept for the building and the tech center that grows out of the visioning and programming phase. And we expect to complete that this spring. And then we'll work on schematic design this summer, where we can develop a sort of robust design that's detailed enough to develop accurate cost estimates, so that when the district votes in November, there'll be the scope and budget of the project will be well defined. Next.
Sorry, I missed that. Are you ready for the next one?
Yes, I'm sorry, Russ. Go ahead.
That's okay.
So this sort of shows how the three architecture firms are working together on this. I'm with DRA. FFF is the prime architect, and Colin Lindbergh is another associated architect. We are involved in all phases, each firm, but to varying degrees as we move through this. We're in that first vertical bar of conceptual design right now, which includes the programming. We'll soon be moving into schematic design that leads up to the bond vote in November. Then there's still work to be done after that. And eventually the project would be put out to bid for construction on the site of the old high school. Excuse me. Okay, Russ.
Great. One quick clarifying question for, we have a lot of community members on as we're looking through this timeline. I know one of the things that we've been getting asked a lot is, when are we going to have some sort of idea of ballpark what a school is going to cost us? And I think we had talked about having that first cost estimate, not the final, but sort of the first ballpark that we're presenting to the board around March, April. And I just wanted to see if that is still the current timeline, current thinking, because I know that's a question on a lot of our taxpayers' minds.
It is. We will be doing, I guess you'd call them order of magnitude cost estimates as part of the concepts, so that we can compare the three or so concepts that are developed against each other. But the construction cost will really get fine-tuned during the schematic design phase, which happens this summer, well in advance of November. So there'll be plenty of time for people to understand it and participate in future sessions like this one prior to the November bond vote.
Right. Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure. So the word visioning was mentioned here. That's kind of a step that we as a design team go through to basically identify the district's vision for the new school and the new tech center, and to more specifically provide the design team with some guiding principles as we move forward. Before we design anything, we want to understand, what are the educational goals and other related goals that the district has for this project. And then we can design to those guiding principles and to that vision. So that session, we can go to the next one, Russ. That session was held like this one on Zoom a few weeks ago, actually now, and it basically had these steps where we first tried to understand the current conditions. There was a broad group of over 35 community participants that included teachers, administrators, some members of the design team, other community members and partners, students as well. So there was varied viewpoints for input. And then once we sort of understood where we're at currently, we thought about looking at, let's call them, 21st century educational trends and best practices, both in how education is being delivered these days and how the facilities the new and renovated facilities are supporting those new practices. Then we took some time to look at and start very early preliminary organizational relationships. What parts of the school want to be near each other? What are the ones that have priorities? What need to be separated, and so forth. We broke into small groups, just like we will do tonight, to work on these ideas. Then came back together as a full group to compile those thoughts. And then likewise, along the way, we asked 3 or 4 polling questions, which you can do nowadays, thanks to technology of being able to poll the entire group independently as to what their thoughts were, and we'll share some of those in a moment. Next slide, Russ. So these are some of the results of that process. First, we focused on educational concepts and the consensus of some of the thoughts that rose to the top among the small groups was that this new high school and tech center really wants to support the 21st century skills, which are some of you are familiar with the thoughts of communication and creativity and collaboration. So there was a real support for project-based learning, not just students sitting in rows and chairs listening to lecture. That's one mode of acquiring information, but obviously these days there are many different modes, and project-based learning is one of them. And then also universal design is kind of a fancy term for really personalized delivery of education, so that it's geared to, it really supports equity ideas in the district to deliver the content in ways that each individual can best receive it. So you deliver the content in multiple ways. And the facilities concepts that relate to those educational ones, having agile classrooms and flexible multi-purpose spaces, not just a new high school with a series of classrooms all the same size marching down a corridor. It was really supported that we need a variety of spaces in the school, and those spaces need to be flexible, and the furniture and equipment in those spaces need to be agile, as flexible, to serve not only what we understand learning will be the day the school opens, but in the at least the near-term future, if not the long-term future as well. And there was another notion that we looked at of learning commons and student commons. These are kind of the evolution of libraries and cafeteria that you can see are more open and multi-purpose. They're not just, the student commons is not just a place for dining. It's a place for collaboration, for projects, for pre-function events, lobby spaces, gatherings, so forth. So, and that was one item that was strongly emphasized in the entire group. And then, as we said, we looked at some overall school organization concepts of, and again, one of the strong points here was breaking the overall building into smaller learning communities, where teachers and students get to know a smaller cohort of their peers. It may be a department organized, but it could also be sort of academy organized. And we developed some of these diagrams that will be those guiding principles that we talked about to guide the design team moving forward. Next, Russ. And then, so the programming phase is a more specific activity growing out of this visioning session to identify the qualitative and quantitative needs of the new high school and tech centers. Next, Russ. So the qualitative was first based on looking at the district's goal statement, which emphasizes being student-centered and responsive. Those are words that certainly feed well into the curriculum and how it's delivered, but they also affect the facility as well. And then out of the visioning sessions, some of the key qualitative words we heard for the new high school and tech center are in the new building. The new project should be innovative, should be engage students in their learning, should be collaborative and project-based. And then some of the additional guiding principles, not just educational, but principles for the entire building. Again, the flexibility and variety of spaces, but also sustainable, a strong emphasis on energy conservation, and of course, safety and security too, which in a building that has both the tech center and the high school has additional criteria that needs to be met. But we can do that, and we'll keep this in mind as we move forward. So the quantitative, next slide, Russ, the quantitative needs of this programming effort are sort of captured in a document called the Space Needs Summary, which itemizes every space in the building with the quantity of those spaces and the sizes of those spaces. And obviously, being a spreadsheet, we can add up the bottom line as to the size of the new high school and tech center. This is still a work in process. We don't have a bottom line yet. We're working with the administrative team and the steering committee to identify, and you can see some of the variables that are still in play here that will inform the bottom line. And again, this is all being done before we really design anything yet. So we're being very deliberate, making sure we identify the vision, making sure we identify the program qualitative and quantitative goals before we move forward. So then next, Russ. So really what comes next is the conceptual design phase. And as you all know, the city has identified the site on Institute Road, on the north side of Institute Road, as being the preferred location for the new high school. It has its own challenges and opportunities too that we will get into there, but that's the next step. And the tools that we will use next, Russ, just the next things you'll be seeing from the design team are these kinds of sketches. These are samples from other projects. Site plans, looking at the overall layout of the land, the building and roadways and parking and so forth. Floor plans, and again, these are intentionally sort of sketchy. They're not hard lines yet necessarily because it's early in the process, but we want to identify and sort of firm up the diagram for the new project. And then there'll be some three-dimensional views as well, computer-generated models, looking at it from multiple views, from eye level, from bird's eye, and so forth, and how it fits on the site and how it relates, especially in this context with the topography of the land as well, which is both an opportunity and a challenge on the Institute Road site. So that's where we're at. This is very timely. Later, we'll be asking these questions in the breakout groups and look for everyone's input. The reason that breakout groups are utilized is that hopefully people feel more comfortable talking in smaller groups and we get multiple viewpoints. So I guess, Russ, you'll be assigning breakout groups via Zoom, and people can click to join them, and we'll distribute ourselves among the various groups as well to sort of facilitate things.
Yeah, I guess just a little bit of housekeeping. Yep, we want, it'd be great if you are assigned to a group, if you can participate. If you have the ability to turn your camera on, I think that'll help you make connections. So we have about 30 minutes for breakout groups, and then we're going to come out and we're going to talk about sort of what those next steps for input are, what's coming down the line. And then if we still have questions, we have a tight timeline for a couple of questions at the end that Superintendent Flanagan can go ahead and try to answer for you. So I'm going to assign breakout groups right now. And so just join and participate. And we're going to take all that feedback. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You have facilitators from the design team and from the district and your groups. We're going to take all that feedback, and then we are going to collect it and review it as a design team. So you really are providing input today, and we'll continue to show you other ways to provide input too. So hang tight, and I will put you all in breakout rooms. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some time for some robust discussion. Joe Wythe, I believe you were going to do a little bit about the makeup and role of the design steering committee. Is that still, or did we already sort of cover that?
We haven't, and I can just kind of briefly talk about what
Let's do,
the
yeah.
design
Let's do
committee-
2 minutes on that so that we
All
have
right.
a time for just 1 or 2 questions for Superintendent Flanagan. And I promised all my principals who work way too late, way too often, I promised them that they'd be done at 7:45 tonight. So let's do quickly on that, and I'll talk about next venues, and then we'll take a couple questions that we have time for.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So one of the ways that the design team is seeking community and stakeholder input is through bi-monthly meetings with the design steering committee. And the design steering committee is made up of about 20 members in the community. They represent a broad range of interests. We've got school board members on there, some city representatives, parents of BHS and BTC students. We've got actual students and teachers from BHS and BTC on the committee. And then we've got some other stakeholder representatives representing equity, sustainability, and so forth. So this group, they serve an advisory role to the design team. They meet twice a month to hear project updates, review work that's been done, and then they offer their ideas, their recommendations, their guidance to the team. So that's one of the ways that we're seeking this community input.
Great. Thank you, Joe. And so we'll take a couple of quick questions. And before we do that, I just want to remind everyone that we do have a website for this project. So if you're looking if you didn't have an opportunity to have all of your questions sort of answered today, or if you had some more feedback to give, you're going to go ahead and go to bsdvt.org/BHS-BTC-2025. And this link was in all of the promotion as well that went up to tonight's event. And this is where you're really going to find we're really trying to be to give you everything that we're working with. So in the upper right-hand side, you're going to be able to view the project documents as they come out from the design team. These are things that we want you to have access to see what the thinking is, how it's evolved, and how we're moving along. We'll also be posting our recent updates on here, as well as an archive to the past project. You know, this is a new project, but it definitely, there's this connection of like, there's a reason why we have to build a new high school, right? It's because 4 years ago, we knew that we needed to change our high school. We knew that it was not serving the needs of our community. And as we tried to re-envision that and renovate that, it turned out that that was not possible. And so we still need a 21st century learning environment for our building. So all the history is here, and as well as a way to provide feedback. This feedback form is the same questions that you asked today. And it also provides you an opportunity to ask questions. So with that in mind, I'm going to open it up for questions. My ask is that you would kind of wave your hand at me, and the housekeeping rule, we have 50 people left on the call and we have 10 minutes. So please, one question, and then we will try to answer that quickly, move on. If there are no questions and we still have time at the end, we will go ahead and, come circle back to you, if you will. So we have a question from Erica Reddick.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm curious, how much money has already been paid to the architects for this design project, and how much has been set aside, particularly for this programming and feasibility stage, where you're going to design it and then put it to the bond? How much has been set aside? How much has already been spent?
I can jump in on that one, Tom, if it's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. I was on mute. I was going to say Russ has put me on the hot seat, but there are probably people on the team who have better answers, more precise answers than I do. So yeah, thanks, Nate.
I was going to put Nathan on the hot seat.
Right. Well, so the answer in terms of spending to date, I think we've spent zero to date in terms of actual bills paid, although we probably got an invoice that's en route at the moment, but we're still kind of in the infancy of actual spending on the architectural services. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we expect as part of and we went through a public bid process, and the cost for those services between now and roughly the bond vote, which I think is what you're asking about, is expected to be a little over $900,000 as the base cost. And along the way, depending on if we want to get extra services here and there, maybe it's an extra cost estimate or something like that, that could increase, but we're in that ballpark as part of the base bid.
Thank you.
And just a reminder that we have set aside 10 million from the American Rescue Plan funds for this project, in addition to an 1.5 million. So at this point, we have additional funds that we're able to put toward the project before it starts, and we'll be committed to raising funds to support this project as well. Although we know taxpayers will definitely need to support too, of course. Peggy.
Set aside COVID.
Yeah, I guess I was just going to expand on that. Is there any way we can leverage any of the federal, any state? I know there's no capital fund or any fund at the state level for capital investments in schools, but with any of the federal infrastructure money, is there anything that we can leverage and or any grants that the school district can apply for to kind of help defray the cost of this?
We are currently looking for other ways to raise funds through state funding. There's been a commitment from the governor to support CTE and workforce development. We think our CTE, our BTC new career technical center fits the bill for that. So we will be asking. I did make an ask of the governor for $3.5 million to help us with BHS. With downtown BHS, and he and the legislature supported that. So we will definitely be seeking relief and support for the building out in multiple different ways, through private donation and also through state and federal funds. What other questions are out there?
I'll keep asking questions if nobody else has. Oh, I see David's hand is up.
David?
I'm not seeing David.
So I have a question. So currently, I heard during our conversations that the Burlington High School is condemned, and if that's the case, why are we currently using part of the building if it's condemned? And why aren't we re-envisioning utilizing this infrastructure we have and possibly being a less expensive to the taxpayer approach and encompassing the old portion of the high school with some remediation and building that way, where we could possibly see a savings to the taxpayers and still reach the goal of a 21st century high school. I mean, currently with $43 million in outstanding bonds and adding possibly up to $200 million to build a new high school, and on top of your $100 million a year school budget, it really gets expensive when we start throwing these things around. We start re-envisioning what that's going to do to the economy of Burlington, especially considering that Burlington currently is losing commercial tenants and stuff. So this is being backloaded on the residents of the city of Burlington.
Yeah, absolutely, David. I think, we are not taking the ask or the need for a new high school lightly, and definitely understand the impact on taxpayers and want to be responsive to that as much as we possibly can. So what we do know about the current high school building is that there are PCBs in the soil, in the foundation of the building, in the walls, in the caulking, and in the ceiling. We had to close the building because of airborne PCBs, but now those are regulated by the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Vermont department. But we also consulted with the EPA, and both the EPA and the Department of Health told us that it was not, that we should not go back into that building. Since then, they have provided updated information on how schools should be and school districts should handle PCBs. We are currently reviewing that right now to see if there is the possibility of occupancy. in the building. I think it does not look likely though, because the EPA has said that they have concerns, not just with the airborne PCBs in the building, but with the PCBs in the materials, and they regulate those materials. So the bottom line is, you know, we were already in a big renovation project for a building that was not meeting the needs of our students. It sounds like the community was pretty clear on that. And then through that process, we learned that there were PCBs, again, in the foundation of the building, into the concrete of the building, in the walls, in the ceilings, in the soil, in the air, right? So the building has PCBs. We are able to be in the building in one part of the building. So that A building where we have our gym, our cafeteria, and our auditorium, we are able to utilize that because the numbers were low enough in that specific area of the building for us to use that. But those are regulated, and we have to do regular testing and regular monitoring of that one area. So it's a complicated question. I understand the question. I want to be able to kind of explain it in ways that you know, that make sense, because I think it really it is we are taking this decision very seriously, and we want to make sure that, you know, we're hearing those questions that are pushing and challenging, because I think they make the decision a better decision in the long run. So thank you. Jessica.
Thanks for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, and for all the work that many people have put into this. There was a sentiment in our breakout group that I just wanted to echo and amplify in this larger group, which is that we have a real opportunity here to build a world-class school and community. Really, it's more than a building. It's a community that we're building, and I think the return on investment is huge, both in terms of dollars and emotional and physical well-being of our students and families, and the community as well. So I guess I'm wondering. I appreciate the forum and the ability to give feedback here tonight and to return with questions if we have them. But I'm wondering, are there other ways to get people involved? There are a relatively minuscule number of people here tonight compared to the entire district and the folks who will be using this building. And so are there things that people on this call can do to help facilitate some of those conversations? Is there work that can be done as a community member who isn't on the steering committee? And once I've, of course, diligently filled out my form and sent it to Russ.
Absolutely. I mean, this is just one of multiple sort of engagement opportunities throughout this process. And so there are multiple ways to plug in and for us to get information out to more people. So yeah, I think that, Russ can maybe add in on that. But before we go there, I do want to just add one key way for the community to get involved and to sort of speak to some of the questions earlier around the impact to taxpayers is by reaching out to the legislature to advocate for equitable funding for our school district. The thing that is going to shift our ability to offer really high class education for all of our students without overly burdening taxpayers is an equitable funding formula. We currently have an inequitable funding formula that disproportionately underfunds Burlington, Winooski, and some other districts. And our school board has been working extremely hard and advocating at the State House and made significant progress there. It's currently in the Senate Ed Committee right now. They are taking it up very seriously. So now's a good time to advocate for equitable funding in our state.
Yeah, I would just say, and then this will have to be the last question, as I promised we would be done by 7:45. So again, thank you to all of our staff who were able to come out late tonight. I would encourage you to go to bsdvt.org. On the home page there, you'll see a post about tonight's event, right? And in there, it'll sort of direct you to the new website for this project. On that page, there is actually a form asking you to get involved, Jessica, this very question. So you can sign up for updates. So our plan as we go through this progress, many of you get the superintendent's community updates that happen about twice a month, sometimes once a month, depending on how much we're sort of doing. But in addition to that, we're planning to do just regular updates as sort of some of this bigger information comes out. And so any community member can also sign up to get those. We want to make sure that we're blasting this out. And there's also a way to sign up to support the project. You know, last time there were people who were out supporting the project. Obviously, as a district, we just say, here are the facts. This is the building. This is the cost. This is why we need it. But I'm sure that there will be people out who are trying to rally support for the project. So there's ways to get involved in there. And there's also ways to, if you're ready to fundraise or you're ready to help with fundraising, there's an option for that too. So we are taking fundraising really seriously, and we're trying to start building that capacity right now. So those would be the key ways to get involved and then to continue to come to these meetings. Again, we hope that the next meeting will be in March. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you, Superintendent Flanagan. I want to thank the design team. I want to thank everybody who came out tonight. Really appreciate you all being here. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.